Welcome to the show, everyone. Really pleased today to have a special guest, Mr. Jeff Davis from the United States. Jeff is a keynote speaker, a business coach, a podcaster. He's focused on aligning B2B marketing and sales to drive growth, and really excited to talk to Jeff today about sales and marketing alignment. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Stephen, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Great. Hey, Jeff, before we get into the topic on alignment, I just want to ask you a bit about your career and how you ended up here, because I noticed you actually started your career literally as a rocket scientist at NASA. And I'm really pleased this is the first rocket scientist I've had on the show. And how did you get from there into sales and then into marketing and so forth?
So it's interesting that you bring it up. I don't think I've ever had anybody ask me about my time at NASA, and I feel like I inadvertently just don't talk about it. Not in a bad way, but so my education started as an engineer. So I was supposed to be, or wanted to be at the time, an engineer at NASA. I had a huge interest in space, still due to this day. But in ironic turn of events, I was talking to some of the consultants that we were working with, I should say, on a major project, and within my senior year of like, what do I do with the rest of my life? Which is funny because I think that you still continue to ask those same questions as you become 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And one of the feedbacks I got was you should go into sales or consulting. And I was like, wait a second, that's not going to happen. I just spent a good portion of my life trying to get this degree.
Yes.
And it really influenced kind of the trajectory of my career. And it's one of the reasons that I, tried out technical sales right after college and said, worst case scenario, if this doesn't work and I really suck at it, you can just go back to engineering because I have a degree in it. But I think it has informed the way I think about things in a very strategic way. And I think that's what has made me successful in sales and marketing.
Oh, great. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. I was fascinated. So, so you're leveraging off your engineering mindset and everything to solve these sales and marketing problems.
I think so.
Good perspective. Yeah.
I think the process mindset and the methodology of anybody has ever interacted or knows engineers, beyond being very cold people, which I ironically am not. We think in methodologies.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Jeff, you host the Alignment podcast, and I know you've got a big focus on the challenge of sales and marketing teams working well together in B2B. What are some of the issues in this area?
There's a lot, but there's also an amazing amount of opportunity. I think for me, one of the reasons that I started my work and why this conversation is bubbling to the top is that the buyer is demanding that we align our teams and align our forces and align how we come to market. Digital transformation is probably the igniter of this. So the modern buyer has access to so much information. They are socially connected. They can easily reach out to people to get their opinions. And so showing up and talking about features and benefits just is not going to do it anymore. And I think one of the things that we also don't talk about as much in the conversation, and we may get to it later, is that our B2C, our traditional B2C experiences outside of work, are influencing our expectations in the B2B context. And so while you may say and think that you're a B2B company and that you sell in a B2B way, you're selling to humans, and humans have had interactions with B2B companies and products and services, and they're expecting the same on the B2B side of the business.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a big driver from the customer. Yeah, we know that the customers, most of their buying journey is not with sales. They're doing that online, and we need marketing to have a strong presence in that earlier part of the buyer journey and so forth. So the customer's driving that. So, but there are, whenever you talk to sales teams, they're complaining about marketing, and marketing, someone's complaining about sales, and it seems like there is some challenge between the two functions. What are some of the issues or some of the causes of the challenge there?
Yeah, so I was liken it to sales and marketing running a three-legged race at like the family reunion, right? We are all trying to get to the same goal line, but like approaching it in a lot of times misaligned ways and really not even looking at each other to say like, which direction do we go? And so that's why it's more challenging sometimes than it needs to be. And there's so much frustration and pain because we really are at the end of the day trying to connect with buyers in a meaningful way and convert them into customers, which converts into revenue. I think that when you look at the historical context of sales and marketing, for many organizations, for most organizations, there is still this fundamental silo between the two of them that is no longer serving a purpose. And so, and I've interacted with clients, or I've been at keynote conferences and talked to folks afterwards. Even with the leaders that get it and that want to align with their counterpart, I hear this: I've been in marketing all my life. Like, I want to work with sales, but I have no idea what they need. Or I'm a sales guy.
Mm.
I've been a sales guy all my life. I'm a sales leader now. I don't have the first idea of how to reach out to my marketing counterpart or colleague. What do we do? And so I think that we have to recognize it's not that, I always say that sales and marketing are not fighting with each other. There's no sales and marketing war. I don't fundamentally believe that. I think what is happening, what I truly believe, is that there's a lack of empathy and people just don't know what it means to align between sales and marketing. And that is one of the reasons that I've started my work, because we understand the sales side of the business, we understand the marketing side of business, but there's this fuzzy gray area, which is that sales and marketing interface that we don't know a lot about, and we just don't think about it. But that's where we're having the challenge.
Mm. Okay, so we've got these silos who'd like to want to work with each other, like to work with each other. They understand that they need to do that, but they're not that effective at aligning with each other. So what's the impact of that if that's not working, if that alignment's not there?
Yeah. So the many things come out of that. So there's many ways to identify it as well. But the one example that I'd love to share with you,
Yes.
I was actually in a meeting as a marketing leader with sales leaders as well. And so I was one of the very few people in the meeting that had been on both sides of the fence. And one of the marketing leaders got into it with the sales leader. They were talking back and forth, and the conversation got a little heated. And at some point, I said, "Guys, stop. You realize that you literally are saying the exact same thing in a different
Mm.
way."
Right.
And like, the room stopped, and I was like, let me help you understand that. And it seems really simple, but you have to be really clear about messaging. And so as a marketing leader, what I learned really, really early on is I talk to my marketing colleagues in a different way than I talk to salespeople. And it sounds really like not a big deal. And oh yeah, obviously, but there's just certain words that salespeople don't use. Like, they don't, use, what's a great example? Um, Strategic alignment of resources. Like, salespeople don't say that.
Yeah.
Or we really want to take a holistic viewpoint on our approach to the market. Salespeople don't talk like that. Do they say
No.
the same things? Absolutely. So when you communicate with them, if you want to connect with them, talk their language. It's the same thing that I say about talking to customers. Don't talk in your speak, talk in their speak. And so what you see as evidence or a way to determine whether or not you have an alignment issue, is that you stereotypically are complaining about the quality of leads. And
Mm.
a lot of companies have identified this, like, oh, these leads from marketing are terrible. Like, none of them convert. And then marketing's complaining about the same things. We send you all these leads, but no one follows up on them. That is a clear indicator that you have a misalignment issue.
Yes.
Another one is obviously continuing to miss quota uh, time and time again. So this is not just, a few people not making quota. This is your team as a whole continuing to miss quota.
Yeah.
There's something there that is probably an issue about misalignment. And then the third one that is very obvious that people don't think about, just a either combative or dysfunctional relationship between sales and marketing. And stereotypically, I see it at the leadership level, of where they don't talk, they don't have a relationship, or they talk poorly about the counterpart or colleague in front of their constituents, which is a red flag for me. If you're talking poorly about your marketing colleague to your salespeople, it is a absolute no-no for me,
Yeah.
even if you don't
Okay.
like
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So a few key symptoms there. I'm pretty familiar with people complaining about the quality of leads coming from marketing, and
Yeah,
even maybe marketing complaining about the lack of follow up on leads from sales as well. Right. We
yep.
see that's a classic one, and then of course we're going to be missing quota if we're not aligned well, and then that sort of destructive relationship, especially at the top, is going to be pretty bad for the business as well.
And another thing to think about that influences that relationship is that we've got to get out of the mindset of bringing new people into the organization and telling the same story. I was talking to a colleague and in training. So we were kind of talking about how does training impact alignment, that sort of thing. And he brought up the points like you literally have people bringing new people into the organization, on the sales side of the business or vice versa, and saying, "Oh, don't worry about working with sales; they're pretty much useless. Just worry about what we're doing over here."
Yes.
So if we continue to tell stories, the relationship is never going to change.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Jeff, you've spent at least the last year talking to a lot of sales and marketing leaders about this issue. What are the suggestions to make this better, to improve this situation?
Yeah. So as I was doing my work, whether it be speaking or coaching with companies, and stereotypically, I'm working with mid-sized companies because I think they struggle a lot with this,
Mm,
and the impact to them is many times a lot. It hurts more than an enterprise company. Not
okay.
that there's opportunity across the spectrum, but when you're a mid-sized company and 10% of your business is potentially impacted by misalignment, that's a very different conversation than somebody that's a multi-billion-dollar business, right?
Sure.
Um, and so, in saying that, I realized that there is a lot of stuff to do, and it is very overwhelming. And I think for a lot of companies, they just say, "We're not going to do this alignment thing because it's there's too many moving parts." And you get to a point where you're asking people to do so much, they go into inaction. And so one of the things I pushed myself and challenged myself to do was how do we create, and I continue to do this in my work, how do we create clarity for sales and marketing leaders to be able to strategically think about how they move forward in a way that is transformative, but not disruptive? Because asking people to do disruptive things in this space, I would argue, is a little bit too much and will lead to inaction. So I created what I call the 3 pillars of alignment strategy. And so it was my way to distill all the noise, all the things that I heard from analysts and research and academia, and I had gone through in my personal career.
Hey, Jeff, before you get into that, can you just
Sure.
explain what you mean between transformative and disruptive? Because they're sort of similar words. So I just want to be sure
Yeah.
you understand where you're coming
So, so for me, disruptive is when you say, throw away everything that you know, and we're going to
from.
start from a blank slate.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't think that sales and marketing are fundamentally broken, right? I don't think that we need to build a whole new thing. I think that we need to make it more relevant. And I think that we have to transform the way we do things. So when I say transformation, it's about meeting people where they are and saying, there's a better way to do this. Let me give you a lens of what good looks like and create a vision with you and then help
Yes.
facilitate you getting there. Because what I found is just in reading and interacting with people, when you say disrupt something, people feel like you're throwing away everything that they did and that everything is wrong. And that,
Yeah.
for me, is not the right approach to alignment. For me, it's really about talking about, oh my God, we could do this so much better. We could be more effective. We could be more
Yep.
efficient if we just learn how to transform the way we look at things, transform the way we go about it, and transform our
Mm.
relationship between sales and marketing.
No,
So
makes sense.
I
Yep.
don't like the language of disrupt, and that's just how I see the world.
No, I agree. And they've got to keep the business going too, right? Like it's pretty hard to get, it's hard enough to get the attention of sales and marketing teams at the moment. They're very pressed for time.
Yeah,
And yeah, they've got to get
and
their
let's be realistic. If I'm the head of sales and you come into my business and tell me you're going to disrupt the way we do things, I still got to make quota. Like
yeah,
I'm not trying to hear you disrupt and turn off all my sales reps and confuse them. Now we can make incremental changes and growth. That's a very different value proposition. But when you
right.
tell me you're shutting down the machine, no,
No, agree.
not going to
Okay.
happen.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not trying to shut down the machine. I'm trying to make the machine more efficient and more effective.
Yeah, great. Great. All right. So your framework.
Yeah. So the framework, as I said before, was a way for me to distill all the things that sales and marketing leaders needed to do. And so it consists of 3 different pillars. I call them the 3 pillars of alignment strategy. And you can find more on my website about it at meetjeffdavis.com. I have a blog post that we can put in the show notes if you're interested,
Awesome.
that kind of walks people through it. And so first of all is data. B2B does not really have most B2B companies don't really have a hold of their data and don't really understand how to leverage data. We are sitting on a gold mine of customer interactions and just data
Mm,
about our customers that most people are not leveraging. And if they are looking at reports, it's done in a very, I call uh, data focused way. They're just looking at data. But what we need to do is not be just data focused. We need to be insights driven. Data really doesn't mean anything until you turn it into
Okay.
insights that inform how I can change my business. And so the first thing you as a company have to agree on is that we're going to figure out how to leverage our data and harness our data in a way to tell us what's going on in our business. And you've got to do that eventually where sales and marketing have a single source of truth. I've been in meetings where the salesperson shows up to the meeting and the marketing person shows up to the meeting, and they're talking about what they need to do, and they are operating from two completely different sets of data, and the data don't agree. So until we can get on the same page with the data, you can't move the business forward because your world view is completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've all seen that. Okay, so the first pillar is getting the data aligned. And
Getting the
once
data aligned,
yep,
getting clarity on the data, making sure also the data is clean, so data hygiene. So
yes,
all those things that allow you to really leverage data in a meaningful way. The second one from that really builds on that in its process. At a high level, what we need to do is that a lot of people are what I call operating out of a black box. Marketing stuff goes in, salespeople do stuff in some magically way, customers pop out, but like no one can tell you how it happened, which is really concerning to me because I ask simple questions like, what's your conversion rate on this phase of the business, or where are people falling out of the funnel after they connect with marketing? Is it the handoff between marketing and sales? Is it the class? And they're like, we don't know. I'm like, oh, so we're just operating in a black box and we're just doing stuff to see what sticks. Scaling that way doesn't really make sense, and good luck. So it's about creating clarity and developing an end-to-end revenue generation process.
mm,
I, as a sales and marketing leader, want to come together on our weekly meeting or monthly meeting, whatever your cadence is, and look soups to nuts. What is going on in the revenue engine? Are we not sharing the right marketing collateral? Are we not getting into conversations? Are people falling out? Like, what does that look like? And the only way you can do that is to really develop an end-to-end process where we really bring people through and help educate them, help understand why the solution needs to be done, and then have salespeople pull that through in a way that makes sense. But you need to build a process that you can see from end to end before you can start to change the system.
yeah. So this is a end to end, looking at how the customer will interact with you and buy and deal with your company, which would involve marketing
Absolutely.
interactions, sales interactions, online, offline, like a whole.
Exactly, the whole gamut. Because what
Yeah.
happens is if I don't operate as a revenue engine, I start to make decisions based on what I can only see in my silo. So
Yes.
so let's say for instance, salespeople are having an issue with, I don't know, booking calls or whatever it may be. And if I only look in my world, well, I would say we're not cold calling enough or we're not having the right conversations. It may be something that's being influenced on the marketing side of the business, that the collateral that they're sharing with them is not saying what it needs to say, and they have no compelling reason to get on the phone with us. But I
Yes.
wouldn't have visibility into that until I was able to actually step back and see the entire process of what's
Sure.
happening before, during, and after, and then be able to say, oh, okay, this is where the miss is.
No, it's a good point, because often marketing might think, okay, my job goes up to here. I develop collaterals. I've agreed to give, 4 different new pieces of collateral every month. I throw it over the fence to sales. My job's done. All right. That might
Exactly.
be the old model, but what we
Right.
want them to do is, okay, I pass the collateral. I want to make sure that it's effective and it's getting the end result, and the sales guys are getting what they need to book meetings or progress deals.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's simple as, we have to change the fundamental way that, marketing looks at sales. Sales is really truly marketing's number one customer. Marketing exists. And Tracy Aller was on my show, on the podcast actually, and I love that she said that. She said marketing exists to make sales easier.
Mm,
That is their function.
yes.
And so everything that they do at the end of the day is because we want to sell stuff, widgets, products, services, whatever it is.
Yes.
And when we forget that, we tend to do things that are misaligned with what sales is trying to achieve. So, for instance, if sales number one goal and one focus is to book more meetings, but I'm putting out a lot of collateral that doesn't have a call to action of saying, connect with one of our sales specialists or connect with whatever. I'm saying go to the website. Well, that's a huge missed opportunity. If I want to book more meetings, maybe I shouldn't be sending people to the website, but saying call this number or go to this Calendly and book a meeting directly so we can get people on the phone. It's those little sort of tactical things that if we're not aligned about what we're trying to do and our strategy going to the market, that it may be great marketing collateral. It may really communicate the value proposition, but if
Mm.
I'm sending people to the wrong place, huge missed opportunities. So
Yes.
it's
You're
things
really
like
talking
that.
about, we've got to have that alignment all through the process and at all levels, even at a very tactical level. It's no good just the two top people being aligned strategically. It needs to come down right to that working level.
Yeah, it does. Now, I would say one of the reasons that I focused on making sure that leadership is on board first, because the way that they see themselves in their relationship has a huge influence on the rest of the organization. So I think that in the past, I've seen people try to do from the bottom up or go to mid level managers, and if you don't have alignment from all the way up to the CEO, to be really clear with you, it's not going to stick. You may do a couple campaigns, you may make it through a couple quarters, but again, if you're going to, because this is really about a business transformation, and the only way to really truly have a business transformation that sticks is coming from senior leadership.
Yeah.
They have
Okay.
to live and breathe this
So
alignment.
they're your first two pillars. First one, data. Second one, process. What's the third pillar?
And then the last one, which I find most organizations struggle with the most, is communication.
Mm.
And not only communication internally, but communication externally. And so when you look to say, oh, we're collaborating, we're collaborative, if you look from a psychological framework, collaboration, really what separates you being collaborative is becoming a learning environment. And just sharing information to share information is not collaboration. You have to a point where not only do you share information between sales and marketing, but you're doing it in a way that you have a shared and aligned vision, and that you're changing your activities based on the information that you're getting from your colleague. So just to throw
Yes.
things over at marketing or just to throw things over at sales and create a quote unquote feedback loop isn't what it's about. It's about taking that information in, digesting it, and saying, oh, based on what we're getting from sales, we need to pivot and change this. Not just saying, oh, sales, we heard you. Great, thanks. And continue to do the same things, right? Which a lot of
Yes.
people do. They're like, oh, we were at the meeting and the kickoff at the beginning of the year and sales told us this, but we already have our strategy set for the rest of the year. So thanks for sharing that, but we'll look at it next year. If it's relevant and makes sense, you got to change your behaviors. And so we have to get to a point where we are formalizing communication between sales and marketing. And, I would argue at least a weekly meeting with leadership to go through the revenue funnel review. Also thinking about monthly or quarterly, the whole entire revenue team, so sales and marketing, to share best practices, to update people on things of what's going on. One missed opportunity I see often is when sales and marketing work together and it works and we close a customer, whether it be through ABM or whatever it is, let the rest of the team know.
Yes.
Because that's going to incentivize people to say, oh, this alignment thing works. And I also get recognized for when I work with my colleague. I now am more incentivized to do that. But those things have to be formalized. That feedback loop has to be formalized and not just say, oh, we get together every once in a while. Because inevitably people get busy and you get busy doing the business and then those things fall apart.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, a couple of things you mentioned there
Sure.
makes me think of goal setting. Like, where does goal setting fit in here? Because this is where things do go wrong, where marketing's getting some goals sent down from headquarters or from overseas somewhere, or from the marketing head, and they've got their plan for the year, and sales have got their plan. Like, how do we overcome that, and where should goal setting fit in here? And should we have the
So the
same
big
goals?
number one goal that actually be everybody's goal is revenue, percent to revenue. So I always start with revenue. Revenue tells the story regardless. You can be doing a lot of great stuff, but if it's not impacting revenue, then it's not the right stuff. Absolutely, what we have to do is that a lot of what I see going back to the silo issue is that marketing comes up with a marketing plan, sales comes up with a sales plan. They don't really interact until they're all baked and done, and then they get together and then realize that their plans don't really coalesce. You should be building a marketing and sales plan together. You actually should be co-creating them, because at the end of the day, they have to all align up to the business plan. And so the sales plan has to align to the marketing plan, which has to align to the business plan. And that is the only way that you're going to be able to move together in lockstep. And if you're creating all of those things in different silos and, at the end of the day, not aligning them to the business plan, you're going to have a lot of friction. And you're
Absolutely.
going to have people operating with competing priorities because we've developed this kind of roadmap in a silo, and it doesn't align with what our colleagues are doing.
Hey, Jeff. There's a lot of sales leaders listen to this podcast, and a lot of my clients are sales leaders and country managers over here, and they have some challenges. Often the marketing function is reporting maybe not directly to them, or it's reporting offshore somewhere, maybe to Singapore or back to the US. And it's really important that they work on, collaboration and alignment with that marketing function. Did you have any suggestions for how they can best, achieve their goals and communicate better?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I've talked to sales leaders about this because, and we've had other conversations on this particular topic. But I would say most sales leaders have probably grown up in sales, and so there may be a feeling of, well, marketing's just not doing their job, and I just don't want to go through the hassle of trying to get them to get it. I think that when you empower salespeople with what they should be asking for and how to frame that conversation with marketing, it's a lot more effective. There's one thing to walk into the head of marketing's office and say, "This is not working. You're not giving me what I need. My
Right.
salespeople, da 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 da, et cetera." We've seen that play out, and it doesn't work, right?
Mm.
So
Yep.
we have to change our approach. And so I like to empower salespeople to say, um, "You need to know exactly what you need and ask for it in a way that marketing understands." So one great example is stop asking for more leads. Stop.
Mm. Okay.
Leads don't mean anything to your salespeople, and they are completely worthless. And I know a lot of people, if they're in their car, probably just drove off the
Okay.
road when I said that. But let me explain what that means.
You
Because
better.
if leads, I know, let me clean that out really quick, right? Because he said, no, leads are worthless. Like, if leads were of any value, we would be doing okay. We'd be converting, everything would be fine. Sales quotas continue to fall year over year. People are getting more and more leads, more and more technology. It's not working. You want sales to create and give you opportunities.
Mm.
I, as a sales leader, would prefer you give me 1,000 leads that convert at 90% than 20,000 leads that convert at 1%,
Yes.
because that's highly ineffective. But a lot of sales leaders will push back and say, "You can't give me less leads. I can give you less leads, and I should give you less leads.
Mm.
If I can prove to you that lead quality is higher, your people are going to be more efficient and effective because they are chasing after less people that have a higher propensity to actually
Sure.
convert to business."
It's more satisfying work as well.
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
all of that affects. I mean, it all has effect on like your turnover rates. When you have sales reps chasing all these leads that have no intention of converting, probably ever, they
Yep.
are frustrated. They're not making any money. They're not closing deals, and they go somewhere else.
Yes.
So it's about really going to the market leader and saying, "This is what good leads look like," or having that conversation. Here's who converts.
Mm.
Let's make sure we're going after the right people. Also, I think you have to make sure that your marketing leader is giving you the tools that you need, the collateral and content that your salespeople need to be successful. We don't
Yes.
need sales sheets that talk about feature and benefits. Oh my God, please cut them up, throw them away. They are useless. All that
Yes.
information, if it's not already, should be online and should be on demand for buyers. Your salespeople need tools that help them talk in the terms of the customer, that help them
Mm.
set the stage for building a vision. I would argue co creating a vision for a solution, and then also helping them quantify what your solution is going to do for them. So things like ROI calculators,
Mm.
case studies where they become the hero of the organization. Things like that are much more valuable than a sales sheet that say, "Oh, after a call today, I will send you a sales sheet that talks about the features and benefits of my product." And I would say, if I was the buyer, didn't we just talk about that in our conversation? And I also found all that online. So I don't really need that. Thanks. Have a great day. And then you
Sure.
wonder why I don't call you back, because you provided me no value and you haven't helped me get any closer to making a decision.
No, it's just not good enough today, is it? To be
Yeah.
continuing to lead with product and features and benefits. The market's just too demanding. Customers are too have such high expectations of us, and it's so competitive. So we really need to get our act together here.
Yeah. And the other thing I would add to that too, before we move on, is that
Yeah.
I also want to empower sales leaders to inform their marketing colleagues what type of conversations they want to be having with the market before your salespeople even get in front of them.
Mm.
Because really, at the end of the day, marketing's role, they have a huge megaphone where they can talk to many more people than your salespeople would call on if they were working 24/7. You've got to co-create and cultivate that narrative so that it's the right message and it's what
Mm.
you want to communicate. Because if marketing is not saying what you need them to say, that is partially your responsibility and partially your fault. You've
Yes.
got to get in front of that, because if they are setting the stage in a way that is counter to what you're selling, that is a huge issue. And now you're not overcoming just building a relationship and trying to figure out how we can put our solution in, create value for you with our solution. I'm overcoming that your perception of what we do is different or wrong.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot more work that I don't want to do.
Yeah. We don't, we don't need that. We don't need that extra hurdle. That's for sure.
No, absolutely not.
So Jeff, could you give me an example or a story of someone that's doing this really well, or maybe someone you've helped that was in a bad way and they made a few changes and then, they started getting better results?
Yeah. So I'm always careful with sharing who's doing it well, because
You don't have to say the name if you don't want to.
no, I know. And I have an example, but I just want us to be
Yeah,
really careful of when we talk to other people, because every business is unique. Every situation is unique and different. So uh,
sure.
I obviously love sharing success stories and what looks good, but I don't want us to get into the habit of copying and pasting, because I don't feel like that's the way we should
Okay,
go. With
sure.
that said, I actually had a client that I came in with that was struggling with, they had a lot of stale pipeline. So they had a lot of
Mm,
deals that were in the middle of the pipeline, but they couldn't close them. So that's obviously a sales velocity issue.
mm,
So when I really stood back and kind of looked at all of their collateral and their marketing and everything together, I said, well, you are creating a lot of confusion for your buyers. You're actually creating a lot of friction through the sales process. And what do I mean by that? I said, you haven't really come to the buyer with a discrete solution. You were saying, we can do a lot of stuff. We can do everything. Tell us what you want. That's not the buyer's job. That's your
mm.
job. And
Okay.
while your intent is to be flexible, I get that, right? You're actually causing confusion. And so the reason people are not calling you back, because you sold them on, I can do everything. And when we all know is when you say I can do everything, that means you can do nothing. So it
Right.
was about, first of all, really getting concrete on what your solution is and is not, and realizing that you can't go after
Mm,
everybody, but also thinking through every step throughout the sales process. Like, how does that feel? And so one of the exercises I did with them, I said, you're going to play the buyer and I'm going to play what you're doing now. And so I would kind of go through a phase and I said, how does that feel? Oh, I feel confused. I don't know exactly what I should do next. I go, yeah, doesn't feel good, does it? So
mm,
why would you call me back? I know that your intent was to say, like, we're open and we'll figure it out for you, whatever you need. But your job is to understand what my true pain is and paint a vision of, like, you know what? Here is how you should approach your business decision.
mm.
Here are some solutions that I feel like are the best option for you and has worked for other people in a similar situation. Now let's talk about how we can facilitate you making a decision based on, where we are today. That feels very different than to say,
Absolutely.
we can do
Yeah.
whatever you necessary.
Then presenting a smorgasbord to the customer. We can do this, we can do that, we can do this, and they
It's too
have to work
much.
it out. Yeah, and the customer's going to end up going somewhere else who specialize in solving their particular problem, not someone that can solve anything. Um,
Absolutely. And the
yes.
marketing had to reflect that, because the marketing was the same way. It was bipolar and schizophrenic and said everything. And
Mm,
I was like, you've got to focus on who you can actually show up the best for.
yes.
What customer can you serve the best? Focus on them and have that clear message of, this is why you should come to us. And so after we were able to do that, I actually saw a 40% increase in growth, um, just based on clarity,
Yeah. Yeah.
because their assumption
Okay.
was they were serving the market in a really personalized way. But I was like, that's not what you're doing. You're making it much more complicated for the buyer.
Yeah. So what was involved in that transition, Jeff? I'm sure that wasn't overnight. That would have been some pretty deep work there.
Yeah. So a lot of it was, I would say the bulk of it was getting clarity on what the product offering was. Because once we were able to do that and get clarity on the type of business's ideal customer profile and then the customer
Yes.
personas within that, a lot of that freed up them just to do the work, right? Like everything got clearer. And that,
Yes.
I would say, was the most heavy lifting, because it was kind of like organized chaos of, like, let's just,
Mm,
anybody that'll buy stuff from us, let's just talk to them. And I
yeah.
was like, when you're able to get clear on your ideal customer profile and focused, it actually is not only much more effective, you feel less overworked
Yeah,
because you
less burden for sure. Like, I mean, just imagine, yeah, like some people are maybe trying to solve the problem at the sales end, push the sales guys harder, get more leads and whatever. But if things aren't right at the core, and like you say, have we identified our ICP? Do we have a very clear value proposition for that person? Do we understand the sort of pain points that persona has?
Yep.
And then we can, align our collaterals, align our websites, train our salespeople just on that specific thing. Everything gets a lot easier.
And that's the work that I love to do with companies, is to help them add clarity or get clarity on why they exist and what they uniquely provide. Because when we throw technology and we throw all this stuff on top of this, training people and making them work harder, that's all you're doing is accelerating a broken wheel or broken
Yeah.
car. And so you're just, all it's going to do is just break down faster. You're
Yeah.
accelerating. I forgot who this was, so I'm going to put it out that I'm stealing this. You accelerating garbage.
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of people are doing that because they're like, I have to do something. So let's buy a CRM, or let's buy some MarTech, or let's buy some other.
A
And I said,
magic bullet. Yeah.
there's no magic bullet, but what I know to be true in every fiber of my being, when you get clarity about why you exist and who you serve, everything else is easier.
Yes, absolutely. So Jeff, anything we haven't covered that you think we should address here? Is there anything else on your mind?
No, I mean, I think we had a really good conversation, and I think we hit a lot of the talking points that I was hoping to get to. I think the other thing that we may have missed was just really setting the stage and helping leaders understand the business case for
Yeah.
why sales and marketing should align. I think that historically we've kind of talked in generalities about sales and marketing alignment and getting together and having coffee and being friends and skipping down the hallways of the office. And while all of those things are great and it's
Yeah.
awesome, they don't necessarily lead to more revenue. And so when I talk to leaders about building the business case for their CEO around why they should get not only time and energy but also resources, at the end of the day, is that misalignment is costing organizations a lot of money. So there's a couple stats that really bring it to life. There was a study that estimated that the companies on average lose $1 trillion when you look at, and that's 1 trillion with a T, not a
Wow.
B. And initially I looked at that and I read it and I was like, that seems like a really high. But when you pull back the onion, it talks about the loss of sales productivity and the waste of marketing spend. And then that's like, oh, that's totally reasonable, because you got to think about all the hours that your salespeople are not doing sales related activities. That is,
Yeah.
looking for marketing collateral. That is putting stuff into the CRM. That is all the stuff that they're not on the phone or out in the field selling. You are paying your salespeople a lot of money to be salespeople. And when they're not selling, that is sucking money out of your business. And then two, when you look at the fact that, majority of marketing created collateral, I think it's now up to 80%, it goes unused. So I have a marketing team, also well-paid folks that are creating all this great stuff that no one's using. It's a complete waste of time, energy, and money. And so misalignment is not about getting along. It's about literally not having money being siphoned from your business. It's that serious.
Absolutely. There's some real hard expense costs there,
Yeah.
let alone the upside in revenue and margin we can get by doing it better. So
Yeah.
I think a really good point there. So trillion, it's a big number. So
It's a really big
we
number.
definitely got to focus on this issue.
And the Aberdeen study, the Aberdeen Group study, also supports that, in that they show that companies that are aligned actually, and the numbers escaping me right now, but I think 25% faster than those that are not aligned. I'm sorry, they have a 25% increase in revenue year over year if they're aligned, versus a 4% decline in revenue if
Wow.
they're not. So it's not just marginal increases in revenue. It's X's.
Wow.
So it's a big difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jeff, really enjoyed the discussion. And
Thank you, sir.
I can see the engineering background, the rocket science coming into your work here, and the way you approach, the way you talked about data and the process, the end-to-end process, and everything. I can really see the value you bring to your clients in how you look at issues. So really great to catch up. I definitely got a lot out of it, and I'm sure the audience did too. So
awesome.
Look forward to seeing you soon. And thanks everyone for listening and watching. Talk soon. Bye for now.